You might be wondering, why you might be wondering. Hi, welcome to the Motley Stew Show. My name's Luke Goldstein, and this week we're going to talk about money. How much these guys have, how much you don't have, and why it could change the course of the country. The fight against the corrupting influence of money in politics is nothing new. Even at the turn of the 20th century, the same fight was being waged. Legendary newspaper owner and fierce justice seeker Joseph Pulitzer, the guy the award's named after, once railed against Theodore Roosevelt for selling out to big money when he campaigned on the idea of breaking the big trusts around the early 1900s, but yet when he ran for a second term, he took donations from those very trusts. When leaving office after his second term, he actually left a proposal hanging in the balance to limit corporate funds being used for politics. And he also admitted that Joseph Pulitzer was right about the corrupting influence of money. Fast forward to today, and these two men, Charles and David Koch, otherwise known as the Koch brothers, have more money than Roosevelt could have dreamed of being corrupted by. Their father created a new way to refine oil into gasoline, and years later, 2 of his 4 sons are sitting at the top of Koch Industries, which pulled in a revolutionary $115 billion in revenue in 2013 alone. They are the second wealthiest family in the country. The Koch brothers have been in the politics game for a long time now. Back in 2004, an older nonprofit that they used to run called Citizens for a Sound Economy actually split into 2, now known as FreedomWorks and Americans for Prosperity. AFP is one of the main, if not the main force of donation and organizational capacity for what we now know as the Tea Party. Their grassroots funds helped drive the Republican wave in 2010 and single-handedly funded the anti-Obamacare fanaticism. In 2010, the Koch brothers felt the influence of big money in a big way. You might be wondering, what's so bad about some guys putting some money behind causes they believe in? That's a good question. The answer lies in whether you believe in those same causes, because with enough money, their belief becomes your law. In 2012 alone, the Americans for Prosperity and the Koch brothers network were combining for $400 million in political ad spending, while the entire GOP establishment spent $857 million. Now those two numbers might not be extremely close, but they're closer than anyone else. Now this next time around in 2016, the Koch brothers have promised to up their game. At a recent retreat at the Rancho Mirage Ritz-Carlton, they met with 450 or so corporate donors, high-profile bundlers, Republican establishment types, including Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Rand Paul. There they promised to fundraise $889 million for the 2016 election cycle. Now Obama and Romney back in the 2012 election cycle, both of their teams spent a little over $1 billion. So right now, the Koch brothers are talking about spending close to the same amount that the entire presidential campaigns on each side spent. This basically makes them, in financial terms, a third political party. Even better for them is all of these dollars are funded and funneled through dark money PACs, meaning that all of their donors are anonymous. So there's no way to tell that the $889 million came from 450 people or bundlers or just from the Koch brothers themselves, who are multi-billionaires and could fund this from their own bank account. The Koch brothers, of course, would never say that it came directly from them. They would say that their issues and the fundraising is a voice and it is the will of the people, the will of extremely rich people. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, when he was on the floor late last year, he hammered the Koch brothers day after day for their increased political influence with the money that they were jumping in ever since the Supreme Court decision in the Citizens United case, which basically opened the floodgates for corporate donations under the guise of political speech, saying it can't be hindered and it can't be limited. Some people in the GOP said that this was unfair and that the Koch brothers were being wrongly picked on for no reason. There is a reason, and it's actually very simply laid out here in a series of tweets from Robert Maguire. Koch brothers' political stance is heavily conservative financially and heavily libertarian in everything else. They would love all the regulations in the financial sector to be wiped clean, and we could return to this glorious world that they call the free market. The free market was exactly what caused the financial crisis because of regulations that were stripped away from the banks back in Clinton's era. Yeah, it was a Democrat that did that. They also want the EPA to pretty much disappear since all of their money comes from oil and gas. The more the government funds research and development into renewable energies, you know, the things that help save the planet, lower your utility bills, well, that directly affects their bottom line, and that's just unacceptable. Planet be damned. Now, while they might be the size of a political party financially, what's even better for them is they don't have the regulations and requirements of trying to elect every single person under that umbrella throughout the country. They can pick and choose. They can be very specific where their money goes, which makes every dollar they spend twice or 3 times or 4 times more effective than the money that the GOP is spending. Just recently, the Koch brothers used this targeting method to beat ExxonMobil and become the #1 supplier of climate science disinformation and clean energy opposition. Of course, the weather doesn't change inside of multi-million-dollar mansions and penthouse suites, so how could they actually admit that 14 of the hottest years on record were in the last 15 years? I see a trend, don't you?
I don't see a trend.
I don't see a trend.
No trend. Not at all. Do you see a trend? Impossible. No trend. Quite.
The Koch brothers are a one-stop shop for anti-liberal, anti-environmental, anti-anything Obama wants, and anti-regulations anywhere near business. And while money wasn't enough to get Romney elected into the White House, it will be enough to swing a number of statewide elections, governor's houses, and local elections that can move much more of the policy than at the federal level, meaning they can stack the deck around the country and pretty much immobilize the president, whichever party it's from. So what do you think? Do you think corporations and super PACs should be able to donate unlimited amounts of money into political campaigns? Do you think it actually falls under the guise of free political speech? And how important do you think campaign finance reform is to the political process? So thanks again for watching the Motley Stew Show this week. I always appreciate your support on the show. You can share, like, favorite, subscribe. All of those buttons are down below and just waiting for you. Stay tuned for next week, and as always, a little bit of Logan.
Whoa. Get it.
Logan, let me see. Can you throw it? Hey. Honey, the wall.
I know. Not to the wall. You can do it. There.
The answer lies in whether you believe in those same causes, because with enough money, their belief becomes your law.